Hey, what's going on, fellas? Good evening. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to get right into it because originally I had planned this live stream for Friday. And if you guys follow me on my personal social media, some of you guys will probably know why. What is going on, Ricky? What is going on, Zodwriter? Nice to see you guys back here again. We'll probably have some guests drop in. But other than that, give me a few seconds. I'm going to go ahead and share the link to the group. We'll go ahead and get started. But we have a lot of good accomplishments today, a lot of positives. And there's going to be some other things I'm going to discuss too, because I think you guys should know the truth about single board computers and making this kind of stuff. So, yeah, we'll get right into that in just a minute. But how are you guys doing today? You guys have a good day? I can tell you there's been a lot of work put in so far. Freaking crazy. Freaking crazy. I'm really busy. All right, so for those of you who may be joining for the first time, my name is kiodiekin. Do a lot of testing for Supreme images and stuff with Raspberry Pi, and on this channel is more or less integrated for hobbies. And so one of the things that I've been testing recently, getting this up and working, I believe we are the first to have Retropie working on the Orange Pi 5. Never really worked with another single board computer before other than what is going on level 1 online. You want to jump in for a minute? I can see the link. But I worked with the Odroid for a little bit, but the Supreme team had already ported that over, I think, before I even came around, which would have been around 2018 or so. But I know you guys are busy tonight. I don't want to keep this stream too long, but the purpose primarily for this live stream, I just want to show you guys a little bit of the advancements that we've made so far. We do have sound working, which took over 20 hours to figure out how to do. It was very time consuming. This stuff is not easy. And I like to set reasonable expectations because you guys should know the truth. You guys should know exactly what it is you're getting into. And so over here on the bottom right, we have the Orange Pi 5. You guys know I picked that up a couple weeks ago, last week, whatever it might have been, whatever. But I've been testing some games, some of the N64 games. Haven't really had a chance to test some of the other things out. But one of the things that I wouldn't say is a pet peeve of mine, but one of the things that really is concerning is I watch a lot of reviews. I see what's going on out in the community with a lot of these things, and sometimes some of these single board computers, they come across very attractive, to a person and to a consumer. And I'm here to set expectations, make them reasonable, because again, this stuff is not easy. You won't see 5 videos on this for the most part. A lot of people had a hard time working on the Orange Pi 5, and there's a bunch of reviews and tutorials I could do on this thing. But primarily for you as a person using this, maybe you're the end consumer, this primarily is going to focus on retro gaming, and this is more or less going to focus on the needs for consumers, not devs. If you're a tinkerer, you're a dev, you know how to code, you just want to buy something to figure it out on your own, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to people who see this, may see an advertisement, may be interested in this, and think to some degree that it's going to be the next retro gaming thing. And I'm here to tell you that's far from the truth. Now, even though we do have Supreme Ultra up and running with the Supreme team, in fact, it is converted as today. That's all good news. But again, I like to be reasonable for everybody who's making a $90 purchase, $130, $170 purchase. The expectation is that somehow that this would be a Raspberry Pi 4 competitor. My personal opinion is if you don't have development, if you don't have a community, if you don't have things that have already been put in place, then it is in no shape, way, in form, or fashion on the same level as the next board. And so typically what you would have is you would have people either in the single board community or retro gaming, whatever it might be. They'll look at a board, they'll look at the specs, and then automatically assume that it can run PlayStation 2. It can run Wii. It can run N64 and Sega Saturn full speed. And if you guys watch my previous videos, and if you watch my videos when we started, we ported over Retropie to the Pi 4 and then the Pi 4 8 GB model, you'll know that there were some hiccups and there weren't many people that were capable of doing that. And so, one of the things that I've just noticed is that people will look at a single board computer and then automatically assume it could run something. And it's been a pain in the butt to get a lot of stuff up and running. Again, we're still a work in process right now, but it's impossible to look at a piece of hardware, notice that it has you know, um, 8 GB of video memory, or if it has, the processor runs at a certain speed, or, you have a chip that's an octa-core chip. Looking at hardware doesn't guarantee that you'll be able to emulate or run particular games. And again, I'm speaking more or less in regards to emulation. Reason being is some of these emulators just won't compile. And I'm talking about right now. I'm not talking about next week or week after that, as far as we put more time into development. But some of these emulators, for example, how good is a single board computer for gaming if you can't install drivers to play the games? And right now, I've only tested the Xbox controllers. I've tested a few PlayStation 3 controllers and whatnot. But think about all the trackballs and all the arcade encoders people like to use for a setup like this, and that we haven't even begun to test yet, because I believe ideally most people look at this as maybe for an arcade machine. You want to emulate some things that you couldn't do on the Raspberry Pi 4. Again, that's far from the truth if support isn't there. Yeah, if support's not there, it's just not going to happen. So, just to let you guys know, last night when Ultra or this was ported over, we had some of this stuff working. Took over 20 hours to fix the sound, which should have probably only taken a minute. A lot of this stuff is just being built up, from scratch. And so again, the reasonable expectation is I want to, for a few of these videos is to show you guys some of the process that has to be done before you guys actually get it. And I know a lot of people are probably buying this, again, hoping to hurry up and get retro gaming. And that is the goal, but at the same time, uh and it's also happening in the arcade one up community. You guys know I've made some videos about this. You can't look at hardware and automatically assume something's going to run. Some of these emulators do not like the board or the core or the kernel, as you guys saw from the last live stream. And some of the boards, this board doesn't like some of the drivers. There's an incompatibility issue with some of the Xbox drivers, and that's just what we've gotten into. I can't load Redream yet, not yet. I can't load Kodi as of yet, but we're slowly getting there. But all of that, it has to be handled individually. It's not like just a quick hurry up and quickly load on here. And so that was kind of boiling my blood a few weeks ago, because we always see comments like, "Oh, that's a single board computer. They need a more powerful board. It'll run Marvel versus Capcom 2, or it'll run Killer Instinct." That's not how it works. You could have the strongest board possible on a single board computer, and none of this stuff will work whatsoever. So again, you guys are all familiar with Retropie. Some of the music, we just got the music working today. Some of the other loading screens are finally working with this. Right now, I think the splash screens still aren't working. That's something that is being looked at into. But, as far as this being a Raspberry Pi 4 competitor, it's definitely a long way off. And again, the hardware is there, the GPU is there. I love it. But as far as compatibility, no. It's, maybe 7-8 months tops is where I think it would be. Maybe, even in close comparison. But again, there's hardly any support. And there's no support for this unless the community, gets involved. More people get this kind of board, especially devs and whatnot. But all in all, things are moving slowly but surely. Again, I know a lot of people are impressed that we've made this type of progress so far. as far as getting Retropie working on the Orange Pi 5. I think there was an image back in maybe 4 or 5 years ago on a previous board. And Zod Rider comments here, I never cared for Orange Pi in general, but this one looked interesting. So glad you are so truthful and thorough. The Pi 4 is still pretty impressive considering all the crap on the market. Very true. And also, to keep in mind, the Orange Pi is not related to the Raspberry Pi series. In fact, I actually thought that some time ago, and a lot of people still think that you have the Rock Pi, Banana Pi, Orange Pi. There could be some other stuff out there. All of those are not associated with one another. The Raspberry Pi Foundation has nothing to do with this single board computer. And so far, my opinion about this device is it is impressive from a hardware standpoint. There's reviews out there. But again, when I look at this, I look at this from the consumer need. If it should take you a minute to do something versus an hour, is that something a consumer is going to be interested in? And I bought this. I'm not a spokesperson or anything for any company, but I bought this myself. But again, I like to manage these expectations because you guys are spending your money and you're more or less relying on the community and those in the community to kind of give you proper feedback about how some of these work. I know there are videos out there and advertisements promising that this, any single board computer is so powerful and, maybe it's a Pi competitor. No, it's unless you actually start deving, and I mean deving as in being a development for a single board computer, and you start coding and you start going through lines of code and seeing what's compatible and what fails, there's no way you could possibly say that it would either be a competitor or anywhere on par. And it's very important to know that because again, some of these emulators, some of these drivers could fail on you or may not be compatible, and it's not going to be any good to you in the long run if you don't have those things. And so you may have things that may fail, but that may show a graver issue. And so this board has a lot of capability, but we don't know yet because we're stumbling into issues as far as like if you try to load something originally, something else might break. You have to check all that stuff. And I know I usually have a running joke around here. I didn't get this to run Super Mario Brothers on it, but unfortunately, I may have to run Super Mario Brothers on it just to make sure everything is on the up and up and make sure it's running correctly. Because I can make a video review showing you guys that this is the latest and greatest with my Xbox controller or my PS3 controller, whatever it might be. But if I don't manage the expectations that could be an issue and you're making an investment, I mean, I honestly want to know how many of you watching right now actually knew that this board was not compatible with Xbox controller drivers or that some emulators just won't load. And I know we've had this conversation with like Marvel versus Capcom 2. They use a very similar chipset with Arcade 1-Up. But again, you just can't dump an emulator on a board and say, oh, it's just going to magically work some kind of way. This isn't a PC. And you could have many months and many weeks going into development, whereas, you watch a video or watch an advertisement and, believe that everything's going to be okay in the future where there can be some issues. But aside from that, a few corrections that we did have is the sound is working. We finally found a fix for that. I was able to play, Super Mario, GoldenEye, a few of those other games running MuPen 64, I think GLS, which is the Vulkan driver for N64. And then of course, there was a couple other games. I'm going to test Dolphin a little bit. Thank you, Zodrider. Yeah. I'm going to still do some testing on the games. And, one of the things I definitely didn't want to do is make a bunch of review videos on this, propping it up without fully diving into it, knowing what we're up against. And, if you watch my previous videos, we've talked about this, having different architecture for the Raspberry Pi 4 8 gigabyte model. A lot of people thought Retropie would instantly load. And so I know some of you have asked questions earlier today. Is this going to work on the 16 gigabyte version and the 32 gigabyte version? We could have the same issue like the Pi 4 8 gigabyte model where it's a different architecture and it doesn't load. So we don't know until we actually get the hardware. Nobody's going to know because you got to have it to fully test it. We're not going to make an assumption that just because it has more memory and it's the same chipset that it's going to work. So we definitely want to watch out for that. So yeah, Zodwriter, definitely appreciate that. I know some of you have asked about, should you get it now? I've posted links up there about where you can buy it, but it's something to be cautious about, and it's something to be mindful about if you're watching, reading advertisements, watching reviews. Is to know that this is not simple. It's not Xbox. It's not PlayStation. Like for example, you could fix the sound, but an emulator can end up breaking, on this as far as where it is right now. But, I've talked to some of the other devs in the community, and as far as they're concerned, like right now, to them before they really started, working on a board like this, it's been pretty much a brick. And support for this is very, very minimal. It is no way on par or resemble the performance or uh, the longevity with the compatibility as the Raspberry Pi 3 or Raspberry Pi 4. It is far, far away. I don't care if they added another 15 gigabytes of GPU to this. If you can't compile code on this and it doesn't work in the fashion that it's supposed to, you might as well just pack it up and forget it at that point. And so another thing that I'm also measuring is, I didn't get this to put something out so you guys can enjoy Atari games, PlayStation games, or anything else that you can already do on a 3B Plus. The goal for this is to see if it can emulate higher end systems within what we're already familiar with. I could probably do without the splash screens and video loading screen for now, but is this going to be an affordable option for you in the long run versus going with maybe a cheaper computer? And so right now, I think the prices for these boards are about $90. I think the 16 and the 32 gigabyte versions go for about $130, $140, $150 for the higher end version. And so, to me, if we can't get the higher end systems working in a cooperative fashion, then you might as well go get a PC. So again, we're here to manage those right expectations. We're here to game. We're here to get all the performance we can get on the Raspberry Pi 3, 4 series, but at the same time, also see if we could take it to another level and push the performance of accuracy, not just running. I'm talking about the sound is where it should be. No frame, don't need to turn on overclocking or frame skipping or anything of that nature, but can this emulate some of the harder end systems we haven't been able to do at a much more affordable price? Because I know there's other single board computers out there for $300 or $400, but at that case, and then not knowing if there's much development in there, if that's the case, then you might as well just go get a PC. So again, we are making good progress, and so that's pretty much where we are right now. And so hopefully, I believe maybe in the next week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, especially for you Patreon members, we'll have something out in the next couple of weeks for you guys to test. And I definitely think, for those of you guys who sent super chats a few nights ago, and then for those of you on the Patreon, subscribing for the the development, and of course I do a bunch of other stuff too, that's on here. I like to unlike some companies, use transparency so you guys can see the process, not put you guys in a situation where I put out a video claiming this is the latest and the greatest, and then you find out you can't even turn on the drivers for your controller, because that's what's been happening in some instances. And that's only the Xbox and a few of the other controllers I have. We haven't even gotten down to arcade encoders, which is probably like 200 different variants. And then, of course, too, this unit doesn't have Wi-Fi. It doesn't have Bluetooth. Bluetooth is really easy to get. You can go get an adapter. Wi-Fi, you can use what I'm using right now. I got my Ethernet cord plugged in. Let me see here. I want to see if I got oh yeah, you guys can see it there. Yeah, I got my Ethernet cord plugged in. You watch my bridge video on how to bridge your internet connection, and it's booted up. I mean, it's working great. So far, we still got the same options. I don't have a lot. of gameplay or anything else like that to show you guys tonight. But this is pretty much where we are right now as far as the process. Splash screens aren't working. Video loading screens, that still needs to be looked at. But we're still going to have to, go through, test out all the emulators, and just make sure a lot of other video aspects are working. Now, additionally, the other thing that we did find out is when you use this with Retropie, this creates 3 different boot partitions. I believe the Raspberry Pi creates 2. And in some cases, it backs up all your logs and all your history. So for those of you not familiar with that, I don't think that did that on the Pi 4 or on the Raspberry Pi devices. So that's something else you'll have to look out for in the future. But I'll make more mention of that coming to the maybe we put out an image or whatnot. And then, of course, for those of you familiar with Pi Shrink, that's not going to work. There's a separate process you have to use in order to shrink it. So that's going to hurt some of you people out there that like to try to sell images and things like that. So we got any questions? I think there's like 11 people on right now in the chat. I'm going to pull up a couple of things here. But all in all, I mean, I'm really happy, as far as, where we are within the less than 30 days. I thought maybe it would take a little bit longer to get something booted, maybe a good month. But, I'm really happy with where the progress is right now. But, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. But, that's really been on my mind, just in terms of how a company, and I don't think this is a big company. I think they're probably a company. I'm not sure of their hierarchy, how many people work for this company, but this is just a board where they put some RAM on it, put a chip, and pretty much tell you to figure it out on your own. So I haven't seen any other front ends out there that we could really take a look at to really kind of check some things. But this is a common thing around, some of the other front ends that are out there as far as like Batacera, some of the other images. You think that, in some cases, a more powerful computer, single board with more RAM and a better processor would instantly give you better performance. And, a lot of this still comes down to the actual emulator too, because I was running, like what you're looking at right now, Super Mario, that was running on the Vulkan in, 64 Glass. Let me see if I can pull it up. Let's see if I can pull it up right now. It's running on Glide in 64. Yeah, that's the one it's running on. Yeah, it's running on Glide 64. So, you can run MVC2. How does that look, by the way, level 1? You know what? You should make a video if it's possible to see if you could do online with that through RetroArch. I've never tried. I've never seen a single board computer run Marvel vs. Capcom 2 online. I mean, Arcade 1-Up would have been the first, but you know how that goes. Series XS runs a lot of retro games so beautifully, it's ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, it has more than enough power to run it. What's the highest end system the Xbox Series S could run? I'll probably get one, but I mean, there's hardly any games on a unit. I don't want to spend $500 to let it collect dust. Oh, you gotta get okay. Banned, man. This is a free world, man. You level 1 online. Nobody gonna shut you down. What's going on, Dirty Gaming? Thanks for joining us tonight. But we're making some good process. We're more or less focused again on the higher end systems like Sega Saturn. Want to test that out. Sega Naomi, I mean, that ran on the Pi 4. We want to try PlayStation 2 and some other things, but there's a lot to figure out with this board because a lot of Raspberry Pi settings. In fact, I'll go back and show you guys really quickly. This stuff is brand new. This is the Armian config. Let me switch back over. So this is brand new. If you guys are familiar with the Raspberry Pi 4, it has like Retropie setup and some other things. So where's my keyboard? Currently my temps are about 42 degrees Celsius. I think before I put the case on there, it was somewhere around maybe 50 or so. Yeah, on the Orange Pi 5 with the aluminum case I have on, it's about 42 degrees Celsius. All right, so this is one of the newer settings for the Armian config. You guys will also see you have system, network, personal. Then you can, of course, install software on here. Then it's going to pull up a software module. And you can see send diagnostics. I wouldn't recommend doing that. Full firmware and let's see, SBC benchmarking marking. Let's see if this. All right, we are at 47 degrees Celsius. So you can kind of see the temps there. I believe this is reading out all 8 cores. Never used this one yet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wonder if it's just reading the same one over and over again. Okay, it looks that way. So we're on an average of about 46 degrees Celsius. Which isn't too bad at all. So, I mean, the only unfortunate part is I really didn't get a chance to test a lot of the higher end temps with this when the case was off because I didn't want to damage it or anything. So, 2 days after I started using this, I put the case on it, instantly. So pretty much, that's where we are right now as far as the board is concerned. And so, you guys are going to see some other things. We're also going to try to see if we can get a track mode working on it. I know that could be a pain in the butt if you're not familiar with it, but we're looking to see if it could be a splitting image of Retropie for the Pi series. But there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Oh yeah, the Pi 4 was terrible, man. Remember when I had to put it in ice to water cool it to keep it cool? Yeah, when the Pi 4 first came out, I think I was at 85 degrees Celsius, which is about 176 degrees Fahrenheit. That was hotter than my ESC for my RC car. That ain't good. That was too hot, and that was me running on 6S with some voltage running through it for at least maybe an hour or so. It would never get that hot. So the Raspberry Pi 4 was hotter than that when it first came out. What is set this? Oh yeah, everybody loved that water cool video. I'm probably like ranked number 10 or something like that with some of the coolest temps on it. Because at first I didn't even know that was a thing until I looked it up one day. All right, I'll turn it up a little bit so you guys can hear some of the music, so you guys can know the music is actually on and working. What's going on, Ryan? What is going on, man? All right, I'm gonna turn this back down because it's starting to get annoying. Let's go back to sound settings. All right. But again, primarily for this video, I wanted to just manage everybody's expectations because I know there'll be a lot of conversations and people say, "Hey, this is a Pi killer or a Raspberry Pi killer." Um, it can replace the Pi 4, but unless there's development there, like you may have 100,000 applications for the Raspberry Pi series. This may have like maybe 5 or 10. You made a lot of people blow a fuse with that video. Oh yeah, man. I've been doing that for years though. It's nothing new. I mean, I used to do that stuff with my RC cars because you couldn't run your RC cars in water. That was taboo at the time to run an RC car in water in the rain. Oh no, 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 no. So I was like, screw it. So I spent months in development trying to find out what was the best way to waterproof electronics. Mute channel 13, what's going on, man? Actually, you get colder temps when you put it in cold water as opposed to just put it in the freezer. Because I noticed the temps dropped when it was like that. But the only other way I could get it much colder is if I use liquid nitrogen, like Gamer's Nexus. There's actually, or maybe if I use hot ice, I think that might drop the temperature down much lower. Yeah, cool. Thanks, Ryan. But I'll keep you guys updated. As far as the progress, because you guys are spending your money. You're wondering if this is a wise investment. And this doesn't just pertain to the Orange Pi 5. This pertains to any single board computer. If you guys are a end user looking for retro gaming and you're depending upon the work of the community, you're going to have to wait. Um, I see it all the time. I mean, I know level one, you see it all the time. You'll see a video where someone says, "Hey, this is the latest and greatest, or the best, or the most powerful, brand new single board computer." And again, you can't make an assumption about the performance of this device unless you start compiling on it. If you're not installing emulators and drivers for controllers, forget it, because you'll run into a ton of issues like we've seen in the past couple of days. Kodi won't install. Redrain won't install. Some of the basic emulators that you guys are familiar with, even Atari, like Pico, won't compile. Will just fail. Incompatible with the chip. Let's see if I can pull up something else for you. Oh, shoot. I think I got to reset this. But the good thing is some of the Xbox drivers do work. So that's a great thing. That's a great start. A, B, X, and Y. And then, of course, my hotkey. Let's go back. Let me see if I can find some other options in here for you guys. Let's see here. We're going to go down to Retro Arc. Oh, shoot. You know what? I'm in the wrong menu. Never mind. Funny, Dirty Gaming. Dirty says, want build early? I have one that plays Xbox. All right, let me go back to RB and config. I'm just going to scroll through some of these newer menus so you guys can kind of see some of these things. This is all brand new. You're not going to have your standard like Raspberry config because that's through the Raspberry Pi Foundation. Like this has its own separate build up here. All right, so here are some new ones. Install to update bootloader, freeze, nightly, switch to nightly automated builds, low level, stop low level messages on console, edit boot environment and set CPU speed and governor. We don't need to touch any of these. Announce system and network. This is something you guys will always want to leave off. Oh no. Reconfigure SSH daemon. Update all packages and firmware. So let's go back because I'm not going to go into any of this. Then, of course, here are all your networking options here. Let's look at personal. You can look at time zone. You can reconfigure your time zone, host name, things of that nature. Let's see, software. So these will be some additional things here you guys can install separately. But the one that really got my attention on here was the ability to add this as a Plex media server. So that allows you to store movies and whatnot on here, use it as a remote server as well as MB. Movies and downloading server. This one should be really interesting. I'm not familiar with what Radar is. Sonar, TV shows and downloading server. So you can install one of these directly to your Orange Pi 5 directly within the Retropie interface. But I believe in order to use this, you have to back out of Retropie in order to use it. It's not going to be directly built in, but you can download it from here. Electronic vault for your documents. So those will all be pretty cool to check out once we, cross our T's and dot all our I's, make sure everything's on the up and running, accordingly. But again, primarily wanted to make this video for you guys, let you know what the real deal is with these single board computers, because they look very attractive, and I know as a consumer, you want to see these things up and running because you see the promised specs, but that's only as good as the true development of what can actually be installed on here. And then that leaves you guys holding the bag, waiting for somebody to put something together. It's not going to be plug and play. Like, especially right now. Now, again, obviously, today is what, February 28th. I mean, February 8th. A lot of these things would be subject to change, as more development goes forward. But you haven't seen any other Retropie videos that are out there. So just giving you guys a heads up, about, what to do with your money, what to be cautious about when you're watching videos, the things that go into development when you're, going through this process. Some people would start saying, yeah, we could get this running and that'll work and it's guaranteed. And then they're like, oh, screw it. How the hell you turn the sound on? Dirty Gaming, you got any thoughts on the matter? Or Ryan? Let's see. We got JB. If you want to run Android, is the best performance good? Wondering if it can run Wreckfest mobile at a decent frame rate. Hey, JB, thanks for joining. Great question. So probably, but again, the issue is this board has an issue with certain controllers. So even though the board may be strong enough to handle an emulator or the game, the other issue now is, will it work with a number of controllers? And then I ended up talking to another dev that's actually worked with a lot of these rock chips, arcade chips in the past, and he even mentioned that it is typically an issue with some of these controller types that they don't work. Oh wow. No, that's not all new pies, definitely. But what? I'm glad we had a chance to venture off and check out a board like this. Um, obviously it keeps our muscle memory, fresh. It keeps us, on our toes. Test the limits as far as what we can do. But definitely, please, like when we release something, don't take it for granted because there's a lot of work that's been going on into this already. Level One, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Yeah, Zod Writer, great video. The devs are always the heroes. That's the truth about all these single board computers. True. Yeah, without the devs, we don't go anywhere. We don't do anything. You don't have any fun. It's not there yet. So it'll probably take another good 2 months to really find out if this is really a consumer friendly, like end user friendly board. We'd have to get more videos on out there. Again, I'm only talking about this right now from a gaming perspective and using it with Retropie and the little bit I use Batacera from. I'm not speaking to this as the end all, be all single board computer. I'm talking about this from you get this right now and you start trying to compile Retropie or something here, you're going to have a headache. You might even throw it up against the wall. Gnosis, another good thing to keep in mind is they don't have cool aftermarket cases like Retroflags, Nesby, or AF for the Orange Pi. Very true. Very true. They don't have a lot of good aftermarket stuff for this. I mean, primarily your mindset, if you're getting something like this, you're a tinkerer. You're the fix-it man too. Sweet. Beta 4 will be out tonight. Much more fixes to show. So yeah, we do have another beta, which is why I'm not really primarily showing anything, tonight. You guys have seen some of the videos I've already released, and then there have already been changes to that anyway. So just make sure you like and hit that notification bell and, stay up to date. So that way you'll get daily updates, weekly updates, as far as the performance, and I might show some videos with this using the regular Orange Pi OS, but there's nothing to brag about. There's not much there, and you're going to have to end up doing a whole lot of work. And, running an application, running Dolphin or whatever, or any of this stuff from desktop doesn't give you a true experience. We want to recreate the entire front end interface and show you how much is working and how much is, not working within this particular environment. From what I see, this looks promising for sure. But how many people want to jump in? Yeah, I think there's like 13,000 people on the Orange Pi group, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people stick with the Raspberry Pi. People are frustrated as far as support, and then it just all depends. All depends. I mean, this is my first time really venturing out onto another single board computer. I mean, kind of caught my attention because I saw some videos out there in the performance, but I was skeptical. You guys could hear it in my voice from the previous videos I've done. It was just like, well, until we, go through the paces, we won't know. Because I remember that Pi 4 8 GB model came out and everybody said, oh, it's just 8 GB. It'll boot. Nope. But there's been a lot of advancements made here to the Orange Pi in series. As far as the new Pi shrink method, I don't think that's going to go public though. Right now, that's only for a few of us. Because if you want to give this image, let's say, if you guys aren't familiar with Pi shrink, what it is for the Raspberry Pi, it allows you to shrink down the image. So let's say you have a 128 GB image, right? And let's say you want to put it on a well, let's say you have I want to say, no, not that. Let's say you have a 64 GB storage or image, but you have it on a 120 GB SD card. It's going to read all the space. So you won't be able to put it back on a 64 GB card unless you shrink it all the way down and you remove the empty space. The regular Pi shrink method is not going to work on this because it's not made for Orange Pi. But there's been a fix to that. And then, of course, this has separate boot partitions because I think even right now it's showing my card is full, but it hasn't fully expanded. So there's a new auto expand feature that has to be active too. And I think that's on the new beta that Dirty Gaming is talking about. Because right now I have a 128 GB card here, and I think it only sees like 256 megabytes, something like that. But I definitely had to speak my 2 cents on this matter because I see it constantly. Like, oh yeah, that board will run PlayStation 2 and it'll run this and it'll run, some of that. And plug it in and you can't even download it or compile. Dirty Gaming, got any more thoughts, man? Smognosis, Zodwriter. But there's still a lot more testing to do. I still need to test some light guns with this. And then, of course, I'm going to make sure I can leave this on for like 24 hours, see if it heats up, see if it stays stable. Just those little kind of small things. I always like to, check for. Let's see. Well, so we're just checking out the chat really quick. No, and he's just joking. It doesn't play Xbox. It could probably play the first Xbox, but who knows? You have to check it. Well, thank you. We really appreciate that. Yeah, we definitely really appreciate it. It is a good start. I mean, I've only had this now for about a couple of weeks, and yeah, it is a good start. We'll have to see. I wish we had some more devs on the team right now, but it is what it is. A lot of people don't even have this. And some things too, like when you're working in development on this board, I know code is code, but you got to have this board to see what breaks on it. You fix one thing, something else can break, and that's actually happened. When this comes out, don't use Pi Shrink. It will break the build. And that's another thing too. A lot of people may not be aware of this, but when you use Pi Shrink, even on the Raspberry Pi 4 or Pi 3, if you're not using the right form of Pi Shrink, because there's a couple of methods to do it, it could potentially break the build. And we've seen that happen before, where image makers will say that, hey, I tested these games and I tested the emulators and everything were fine on my end. And then when they upload it and then other people get it, they complain that something is broken. So Pi Shrink can break your build or mess up your image. So it's very important to have the right one to do things the right way. So, that goes beyond just making the image. This is basically packaging it to make sure people can properly download it and extract on their end. All right, fellas, if there isn't any more questions tonight, I'm going to bounce. I'm going to do some more testing. I got some gaming to do, got some videos to edit. I got some other stuff to really take a look at. And then, of course, test some of this beta stuff. But, make sure you check out my hobby group. Check out my Patreon, Kiodiekin Hobbies. If you guys are into fireworks, check out kiodiekin, which is my firework channel. But you can find all the links from my social media in the description of either this video or some of my other videos. If you guys have any questions, please leave a comment, below. But if you're cautious about this, I definitely understand you guys want to support us. But if you're cautious, I can definitely understand it. You may want to wait, until everything is up and up, until we can really just put our stamp of approval on it. But just wanted to keep you guys updated and let you guys know what's going on. All right, you guys all have a great night. I will catch you guys later. Peace. Bye bye.